योर लीलालहरी।
सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम तत्सत्। Last Sunday we just studied the text of verses 27 and 28 in the 7th chapter of the Gita. Before I go into the importance of these two verses, I should make a correction in last Sunday's lecture of verse 24, Avyaktam Vyaktimapannam Manyante Mam Abuddhayaha Param Bhavam Ajananto Mama Avyayam Anuttamam. Instead of Mama Avyayam Anuttamam, which means my inexhaustible and most excellent form. Without knowing this, people become deluded. That is a sentence in verse 24 of chapter 7. But in chapter 9, verse 11, there is a similar verse and a slightly different phraseology there. I referred to that last Sunday by mistake, saying, Avajananti Mam Mudha. That is the 9th chapter. Manushim Tanumashratam Param Bhavam Ajananto Mama Bhotamayeshwaram. My supreme state as the Lord of all this universe. That is the language there. Here it is Mama Avyayam Anuttamam in verse 24 of chapter 11. This is the only slight textual change, but it looks alike. Therefore last week I said Mama Bhota Maheshwaram. Actually Mama Avyayam Anuttamam. Avyayam means imperishable. Anuttamam means most excellent. That is my supreme form. That people do not see. They see only my manifested form as an ordinary human being. That is the meaning of verse 24. Today we enter into verse 27, 28. I point out the importance of these two verses, how Shankaracharya brings the scientific mind, scientific temper, scientific attitude into the Gita and stresses it. The Gita merely said, Ichchatvesha Samuthena Dvandva Mohena Bharata Sarvabhutani Sammoham Sarge Yanti Parantapa. O Arjuna, all beings are deluded from the very beginning because of two passions of the human mind, Ichcha and Dvesha. I want this, I want that. I desire this, I desire that. The other is Dvesha. If I don't get it, I will get angry. I will destroy everything. These are called Ichcha, Dvesha. Due to these two emotions, man is not able to know the truth. Dvandva bhavena. They are always together. Where there is desire, there is also anger. Whenever obstruction comes, anger comes automatically. Ichchadvesha samuthena, dvandva mohena. These are the two mohas, delusions. Bharata, sarvabhutani, all beings, sammoham sarge yanti. The time of creation, all beings become subjected to this tremendous delusion, sammoham yanti parantapa. Now, this particular idea of the Gita Shankara brings out the implication, and that is something marvelous, that not only in spiritual life you suffer when you are under the delusion of Ichcha and Dvesha, even in your day-to-day life, dealing with external nature, dealing with other human beings, you will always be wrong in your judgment when you are subjected to these two delusions, Ichcha and Dvesha. That he puts it in a fine sentence in Sanskrit. Nahi Ichcha Dvesha Dosha Samuttita Chittasya Vastumatra Jnanam Na Utpadyate Bahirapi. Bahirapi means even in our external life. Jnanam cannot come. Right knowledge cannot come when the human mind is subjected to the pressures of these two emotions, Ichcha and Dvesha. Nahi Ichcha Dvesha Dosha, these are the two evils. Samuttita Chittasya, completely controlling the mind by these two. Vastumatra Jnanam, what is the truth of a thing? That Jnanam. Na Utpadyate Bahirapi, won't come even the external world. That's why the scientist tells us to train the mind in objectivity. Don't be carried away by your own passion and emotion. Suppose you are experimenting with a particular thing. You have a particular desire, that this desire must be found in the result of that experiment. If the desire dominates you, you will certainly find that in the experiment. But it won't be true. That desire must go. I shall see the truth and then desire the truth. I shall not desire and create a truth for myself. That won't be science. So in this way, Ichcha and Dvesha are to be eliminated from the mind. Attachment, aversion. These two things, they make for wrong judgment of things and persons. Just like in the High Court, if the judge has particular preference about a particular client, his judgment will go wrong. He has no preference. He wants to be true to the facts that are there. So in all matters of judgment, where truth is concerned, you have to remove from your mind these two forces, attachment, aversion. I want to see the truth. I don't want to see a truth which my heart desires to see there. Then you will always find it. Whatever you desire, you will find it. But apart from my desire, is it true? That's a big subject. That is search for truth. Philosophy as well as in science, we are in search of truth. If you want to succeed in that, you must be able to purify your mind from these two evils, delusions, Ichcha and Dvesha. That is how the scientific mind developed, discovered the truth of things. Not what you want to see, but what is there. What Shankaracharya calls in his commentary on the Brahma Sutras, Vastu Tantra Jnana. What a beautiful technical word. Vastu Tantra Jnana. Vastu is the technical term for the distinct reality. That's called Vastu. Tantra means based upon. Jnana, knowledge. Knowledge based upon the thing itself. That's called Vastu Tantra Jnana. But if my desires dictate, then it becomes Purusha Tantra Jnana, based upon the attitudes, preferences of the Purusha or the person concerned. Purusha Tantra Jnanam is good for you, but the universal truth it cannot be. It won't be true for somebody else. But science wants to discover truth which is true for all. That is the difference between the two. This is a personal truth, personal preference. I like mango. I like this particular type of fruit. That's all your preference. There is a question of truth there. But when you deal with the truth of things, you will have to purify the mind, attachment, aversion. When you want to judge other human beings, you must remove from your mind their attachments and aversions. Then only you can judge him as he is in himself. This is how Shankara brings this teaching meant for spiritual life to ordinary human life also. Ichchadvesha samutthena dvandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani, all beings, sarge vyamohan yanti. They become subject to this delusion. Sarva bhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa. So he said in the commentary with regard to Bahirapi, the external world. It is more easy to discover truth in the external world. It is difficult to discover truth in the inner world. Here your mind that seeks, and the mind is also what is being studied. So it is very difficult inside. So he is going to continue that sentence. First he said, Nahi ichchadvesha dosha samukthita chittasya vastu matra jnanam na utpadyate bahirapi. Then comes Himavattavyam. What else to say? Tathyam avishta buddhehe. When the mind is under the control of these two, Pratyagatmani, dealing with our own inner self, Mahapratibandhe, which is full of obstacles. To understand our own true nature is full of obstacles. Jnanam na utpadyata iti. Knowledge doesn't come to us because of these two obstacles that are there. So whether it is in physical science or interhuman relationship or realizing our own true nature as the Atman, we need to purge the mind of these two passions, Ichcha, Dvesha. Then you will understand the truth yourself. This is a beautiful commentary on these two important verses. The next verse will say, those who have overcome these evils, they realize God, they realize the truth clearly. Because the truth is there. It is your own likes and dislikes that have to be removed from you. Tesham yesham tvantagadam papam. Verse 28 will say, Jananam punyakarmanam te dvandvamoha narmuktaha ajante mam trishamprataha. Those people who have overcome these two evils of Ichcha and Dvesha, they realize me truly hidden as the self of all. They have no difficulty because their mind is pure. This is how the mind becomes pure. Its own likes and dislikes are thrown away. It wants nothing but truth and nothing but the true self that is in all. And so, knowing the truth needs a training of the mind. In fact, in our society, we need a good deal of this training. We are not interested in truth. We are interested in opinions, even prejudices, plenty. But for one generation or two, if children are trained how to search for truth, for that is knowledge. Knowledge is seeking for truth. What is the truth of that thing? What is the truth of this thing? I see a thing, but I don't know whether it is true. What is the truth of it? That questioning mind can create tremendous mental energy in a nation. You don't accept a thing unless you know it is true. I don't want mere opinion. I want truth. That kind of thing. Our politics will be completely transformed. Society will be transformed. If only this training is given to people from their primary education onwards. So, yesham tu antagatam papam. Those whose evils of mind, papa means evils, sinfulness of mind, antagatam have ended. Yesham tu antagatam papam. Jananam, such people, punyakarmana, those who have done good deeds. When you do good deeds, these evil forces become less and less. Attachments, aversions, they become less and less. A concern for others is a tremendous discipline for training the mind. Yesham tantakatam papam jananam punyakarmanam te dvanda moha narmukta. They become free from these two delusions. Bhajante mam Drishaprata. They worship me in spirit and in truth with great firmness and determination. That is the real worship of the divine. As previous slokas had said, we have so many desires. So, in some book we read, worship this God, you will get the desire. And thus we went on changing gods. That is one of the things which is very characteristic of our people. We change gods when we find what we thought this God did not give. I had a friend long ago in Bangalore. He was the member of so many committees. Arya Samaj, Ramakrishna Math, this, that, so many committees. I remember. So one day I asked him, why do you become member of so many religious bodies? Swamiji, don't you know? If one bank fails, the other bank will help me. That is the attitude. And most of our people have that attitude. That bhajante mam drishaprata. That idea doesn't come. To worship God in spirit and in truth. One infinite divine. Behind all these various devas and devis, there is only one infinite divine. Ekameva advitiyam brahma. That is pure religion. That is pure spiritual development. So Krishna says, such people who have overcome these twofold evils of the human mind, they worship me in spirit and in truth. That's the language of the New Testament. Worship God in spirit and in truth. That is what we need. So in these two verses, 27 and 28, very interesting ideas are there connecting with modern scientific training. In fact, in Vedanta, there is a tremendous scientific training component in Vedantic discipline. We are in search of truth. That's why Shankara used the word Vastu Tantra Jnanam. Jnanam based upon the Vastu. What is it in itself? Not as it appears to you or appeals to you. What is it in itself? That is the great quest of the Vedantic mind. Upanishads are full of this. What is the truth? What is the truth? And the great utterance in the Mandala Upanishad, Satyameva Jayate. Truth alone triumphs. Satyam is the supreme virtue, supreme value. Mahabharata, everywhere you will find truth. Make a life true. Not a false life, but a true life. True knowledge, not false knowledge. In this way, Samyak Jnanam, the language is true knowledge. Similarly, we purify our mind by removing all that is adventitious there. Mind has to be trained in the power of penetration. What helps it to penetrate into the heart of truth is cleaning away ichha-dvesha, these various likes and dislikes that are filling the mind of man. So this kind of discipline must come to us from the very beginning. I want the truth of things. I don't want merely the appearance of things. So search for knowledge is search for the truth of things. That can be in the external world, we call it physical science. In the inner world, we call it spirituality. Krishna combines both here in these two verses. The beautiful idea of training of the mind. I often emphasize this point. We have so little training of the mind in our education. Studying the brain, training the mind. These are two different things. Studying the brain doesn't increase the power of the mind. It only becomes a sort of a bandara to accumulate things that sort. But the versatility of the human mind comes from the capacity to think, capacity to question. That's how you train the mind. There you get precision. Thinking in precision. When you have precision in thinking, You have precision in speaking also. I watch people making vote of thanks in various meetings or introducing things. The same thing they say several times and lot of time is taken. The whole thing can be told in 2 minutes. It goes on for 30 minutes. Why? There is no training of the mind. Precise, to the point, that kind of thing. That comes during education when we actually help to train our own minds, searching for knowledge, precise knowledge, not andaj, not more or less, but exactly. That means search for truth. Nature is something. It is not this. It is something. I must know what it is. So also that person is something. I must know what he is in himself. So this kind of training will have tremendous consequences in human life and in social development. More mental energies become available to the nation. At present, it is not. Mind is flimsy. It has no power of impact upon the world around you. That's why this kind of training is absolutely essential. Yesham tvantagatam papam jananam punyakarmana te dvandva moha narmukta ajante mam dridhavrataha. This same scientific attitude you carry from the external to the internal. Then religion will not become encrusted with superstitions. Today there is plenty of superstition in the name of religion. Because of the scientific mind is not there, the rational mind is not there, the truth-seeking mind is not there. Therefore all this, that will not be there. Our Vedanta, which is a subject of tremendous scrutiny by brilliant minds, you will understand better. It is very simple, and once you apply it in life, tremendous energy comes to you, high character comes to you. All that development has to come during the next few decades by understanding first the scientific frame of mind, then approaching Sanatana Dharma from that point of view, Vedanta from that point of view. It is a profound philosophy based upon search for truth. That is the language of the Upanishad itself. And when you are search for truth, you can question. Others can question. If you have searched for dogma, you cannot question. No dogma can be questioned. But truth can be questioned. The more you question, the better. Vedanta invites the whole world today to question its conclusions and try to see the truth for yourself. That is the place of Vedanta, the thought world of today. It accepts modern science. It is not afraid of modern science. It takes you beyond science. Where sciences end, it takes you gently by the hand to realize the truth hidden within you. Science deals with nature. Vedanta deals with nature and man. What is that profound mystery in man himself? Now this kind of subject is developed scientifically in the Upanishads, Vedanta. Gita is conveying that message here, and this nation will be completely transformed with tremendous resources of mind and spiritual values to inspire the nation. That is the future. Vivekananda literature will be a tremendous source of strength for our people, where he has shown the kinship between modern scientific method and thought and Vedantic method and thought. So this nation will become scientifically strong and Vedantically also strong. A complete civilization will come thereby. That is Vivekananda's great hope for the future. So the next sloka says, Jara marana mokshaya mamashritya yatantiye te brahma tadvidu krishnam tadhyatmam karmachachayan. In order to free oneself from jara and marana. Jara is old age, and Marana is death. Today you have a word in English which is exactly a modification of the Sanskrit word, Jara, geriatrics, dealing with the problems of old age. It's called geriatrics. That's called Jara. Jara, Marana, two big problems of human society. Jara, Marana, Moksha. We want freedom from this. That is a very special contribution of Indian thought. Greek thought, ancient Greek thought, knew life, but it didn't know what is Jara and Mrityu. They never investigated that subject. We investigated the subject, and we discovered the truth that Jara and Mrityu apply to the body and nothing else. Within the body is the infinite Atman, ever free, beyond all death, beyond all change. That is a wonderful idea. There are 6 waves of change affecting everything in this world and not affecting the Atman. Everything in the world is subject to the 6-fold waves of change. This is the Sanskrit expression used by Shankaracharya in the Viveka Chudamani. Jayate, a thing is born. Then it gets the attribute Asti, it exists. Till then it was not. Jayate Asti. Then Vardhate, grows. Baby grows. Within 5 years, how active that little baby becomes. Jayate Asti Vardhate. Viparinamate. Lot of transformations take place. From teenage onwards you can see big changes taking place. Viparinamate. Then downward movement begins. Apakshiyate. It goes on, decaying. Finally, nashyati. It ceases to exist. These are called 6-fold waves of change affecting everything in this world, including the galactic system, solar system, everything. They all had a birth, they had a growth, they had a development, they had a decay, and finally death. This is called Shakti Urmiti. Shat means 6, Urmi means wave. 6-fold waves of change affecting everything in this world. But behind this world of change is the changeless, the eternal, the immortal. That was the discovery of the Upanishads. That is what made them strong. That's what made Indian culture also immortal. By discovering the immortal, the Upanishads made themselves immortal, and the culture sponsored by it also immortal. Nowhere else you will find that kind of thing. The famous British scholar Lewis Dickinson, writing on the Greek view of life, especially refers to this weakness of Greek thought. They knew life, they didn't know death. They didn't like old age, they didn't like death. They didn't know what it is. They enjoyed life wonderfully, and one day they were snatched away by a death far away. That is the nature of Greek thought and modern Western thought as well. We know life, but we also know the other side, death. And in the Rig Veda, in the beginning itself, this discovery was made, that supreme reality whose shadows are life and death. Life and death are two shadows of the same reality. Yasya chaya amritam, yasya mrityuhu, kasmai devaya abhishavidhema. What a beautiful expression. Whose shadow is life, whose shadow is death, to him we offer our oblations, our obeisance. And so, Indian culture developed a death dimension by studying the phenomenon of death. Phenomenon of aging and death, the Greeks never studied, never got reconciled also. This is the language of Lewis Dickinson in his Greek view of life, that book. So here, Jara Marana Mokshaya, we want to overcome Jara and Marana. Those who know that the body is that which dies, the Atman is ever the same. when they face death with a greater sense of assurance, greater sense of peace of mind than others. I have finished my journey so far as this body is concerned. It has become useless. Jara, it has come to. The next stage is disappearance. With this understanding, we face death like a brother, like a friend. You have come, yes, I am ready. I am ready to face this. That attitude, that comes from knowledge. Because we know that the true self is beyond the sixfold waves of change. Whatever is material, whatever is physical, they are subject to change. But not the one which is the Atman, which is, as Shankara puts it in the Sutra Bhashya, Nitya Buddha Shuddha Mukta Svabhava Paramatman. Nitya Buddha, eternally awakened, illumined. Nitya Shuddha, eternally pure. Nitya Mukta, eternally free. That is the nature of the Atman. The Atman is never subject to any condition. Because we don't know the truth, we feel we are conditioned. Therefore, when we understand the truth, well, death has come, I face it. Beautiful examples of people dying. With this spiritual knowledge strengthening them, we hear all over the world. It's not a matter to be frightened with. We have to face it. It's the truth. It has to come. Wherever there is birth, there is death. That knowledge is there. In the first part of the Gita, second chapter, you have this idea expressed. This Atman, nothing can destroy. Vinasham advyasyasya na kaschit kartum arhati. Nothing can destroy that imperishable reality which is the Atman. And Shankara comments, even God cannot destroy it. See the language. Even God cannot destroy the infinite Atman, that is our true nature. And so, here he is telling, Yara Marana Mokshaya, Mam Ashritya Yagantiye, those who struggle depending upon me, Ashritya, Mam Ashritya. Ashritya means depending upon whom? The one with infinite self of all. Krishna identifying himself as the Antaryamin in the heart of our people, the deathless immortal self. Mam Ashritya Yagantiye. They are struggling in that direction. They understand. They understand what? They Brahma Tat Viduhu. They understand that Brahman, that infinite reality. Then Krishna completely, the whole totality of reality. At the beginning itself, he had told that I am going to tell you a totality of reality, nothing is left out. And therefore he said, Aparaprakriti, Paraprakriti, ordinary nature and higher nature. These two constitute the totality of reality. That knowledge you will get in that state. Te Brahma Tadveda Krishnam Adhyatmam Karmachachila. Also, all the actions and of the nature of the self within, Adhyatmam, the Atman which is connected with this body-mind complex, and all karma. They will understand all this truth, says this particular verse in its entirety. Jara Marana Mokshaya. This is to get freedom from Jara and Marana. Body doesn't get freedom. Body will be subject to Jara and Marana. There is no question at all. If anybody wants to prolong his body, it will be very bad. In fact, neighbors won't allow it. You will have to prolong the body. So don't prolong the body. Its law is understood. It is subject to change. It is subject to final disappearance. But that doesn't end the story. There's something profound. In fact, I am putting it purely psychological and logical point of view. If death is an experience, somebody must be there to observe it. Otherwise, how can you say this is death? That observer, eternal observer, the Sakshi, is our true nature. We are the eternal Sakshi of all changes taking place in the world. Unless there is a changeless, change cannot be perceived at all. There's a challenge. You can think for yourself. How can you perceive change unless there is something that is changeless? You sit in a room, somebody came to visit you and went away. You also went away with him. Another man came there, met each other, they also went away. But who is to say this happened unless there is a person sitting, seeing the coming and going of all the people? Then only he can say there is change. So behind this world of change, there is the observer, the Sakshi, the witness. That word Sakshi is a very beautiful word. Not only we witness the world, we witness our own self, we witness our own movements of mind. Buddhi Sakshi, Manas Sakshi. What is my mind doing? What is my ego doing? And witness behind the ego. Ego is a changing thing. It is subject to death. In fact, waking ego dies when you go to dream. This ego will not exist during dream time. So this coming and going of ego is understood by one which is never come, which never comes and never goes. It is always there. That is the language of Vedanta. That which witnesses all the phenomena of the waking, dream and deep sleep, that itself is ever the same without a change, and that is our true self. That is the Turiya, the fourth. These are the three states at the fourth. Not in number, but as separate from this eternal self. The same Turiya is the ego in the waking state. The same Turiya, ego in the dream state. The same Turiya is there in the deep sleep state, absolutely unmanifested. That is our true nature. You are that is the language of the Upanishad. Tattvamasi, Tattvamasi. You are not this, that is your true nature. Here is a study of that great datum called consciousness, which has just begun in physical science, in nuclear science. When they pursue it, they will come to the same conclusion. Consciousness is one and non-dual. There are no two consciousnesses. Only one, in you, in me, in all. That is ever the same, absolutely changeless. And yet, all around changes are going on. This is a subject that is just entering into the discussion of modern physical science. We study the subject directly in India, and the result is this profound discovery of the non-duality of pure consciousness, that supreme Chit. Chit means consciousness. God is described as Chit Swarupa, not a Mr. So-and-so sitting far away in the sky. That supreme consciousness is immortal and divine. Shivam Advaitam Chaturtham Manyante Sa Atma Sa Vijñeya. The seventh verse in the Mandukya Upanishad describing this Turiya describes it in this language. Shivam, all that is auspicious. Advaitam, non-dual. That is the true Atman. That has to be realized. That is how Upanishad puts it. So, Krishna tells here, I am that infinite Atman of the nature of pure consciousness. I am in the heart of all beings. Depending upon me, we can face the challenge of change, the challenge of death. They will understand all about Adhyatma, Adhibhuta, Adhideva. Three words are used here. This will be the text for the next chapter. What is this Adhyatma? What is this Adhibhuta, etc., etc., will be the subject discussed in the opening verses of the next chapter, 8. So here, the last verse, verse 30 says, Sadhibhuta Adhidaivam Mam Sadhiyajnanjaye Viduhu Prayanakale Apijamam Te Vidur Yukta Chedasaha. Those whose mind is yukta, trained in the spirit of yoga, such persons understand these things. What are they? Sa adhibhuta adhidevam adhiyajnam. That which presides material elements or nature. Then that which presides over the divine beings called gods are the luminous realities in nature. Finally, that which presides over rituals, sacrifices, etc. All these are nothing but the divine. Yajna is the name of Vishnu in the Vishnu Sahasranama. Vishnu's name is Yajna. Yajna vai Vishnu. That's why that is the language used by Shankaracharya also. So behind all this is that infinite reality. Sadhibodhadidevam mam sadhiyajnam chaye viduhu. Those who understand this truth behind Adibodha, Adhiyajna, Adhideva. Prayanakalepi, even at the end of life, just before passing away, Nyamam, they realize me. Te viduhu, they understand, they realize me. Yukta chetasaha, the mind well disciplined in the spirit of yoga, in the spiritual path. That is the last verse of this 7th chapter, and these words used here become the beginning of the 8th chapter, because Arjuna is asking the question, as you and I also will ask this question: what is this Adideva, Adibhuta, etc.? Our people made a study. Here is a human being. He is surrounded by nature, and far in the heart of nature some luminous powers are there. So we call them Adibhutam, nature. Adhyatmam, the self that is within us. I as the self. Dealing with this is called Adhyatma. The other is Adidevam. Some luminous realities are there impacting upon the world of life here, which we understood as Deva. Deva is a beautiful Sanskrit word. It merely means that which is luminous. That's all. But later on, we meant divine personalities in heaven, etc. Indra, Varuna, all these Devas are called like that. But it's very interesting that today this Deva concept is coming into modern experience. There is a book called The Sacred Life of Plants. You may have a copy in the library, written by an American, two Americans I think. There, when they deal with plants, they bring the concept Deva. The Deva energy makes the plants grow better. There's a method of doing it, and they have life. If you go to a plant with a view to burning it, there is some twitch going on in the plant itself, which you can now study through new electron microscope, etc. So all sorts of things are put together in that book there. But this is going on both in Soviet Russia as well as in America. So I am only telling the Adideva concept is slowly coming into our own day-to-day life, that this nature around is not dead. Our old physical science taught us these are all dull dead matter. No, everywhere there is a life principle inspiring everything here. To that conclusion, more scientists are coming today through various experiments, various studies. I refer to Fred Hoyle, the astrophysicist who came to address the planetarium a month or two ago. His new book, he was a materialist before. Now the new book says, The Intelligent Universe. There is intelligence in this universe. And that intelligence is something bright. What illumines a thing is intelligence. The other is non-intelligence. There's no illumination. So Deva concept refers to illumination. In fact, in our culture in India, every man was called a Deva. Every woman is called a Devi. From the Vedic Aryan period onwards, that is how we used to speak of people. And the sense organs in the body are called Devas, in the Upanishads and the Vedas, because they are the luminous part of the body. The rest of the body is dull, dead matter. But the sense organs make it alive, make it luminous. There again the word Deva comes in. So these are all to be used in a scientific sense as the point of luminosity, that is intelligence. So nature is intelligent, not dull dead. it has life. That is the thought that is inspiring many people in modern age. We shall begin this 8th chapter, just a verse or two, and then take it up again next Sunday when we meet here. Arjuna is asking this question: Kim tad brahma, kim adhyatmam, kim karma, purushottama, adhibhutam cha kim proktam, adhidevam kimuchyate. What is that Brahman? What is that adhyatma? What is karma? O best of purushas, O best of persons. What is called adhibhuta and what is called adhideva? These are the words which came, a few of them came earlier, a few more are added. Arjuna is asking the question. And finally, continuing the question, adhiyajna katham kotra. Adhiyajna, the one who presides over sacrifices, rituals, adhiyajna katham kotra. Dehe is min, Madhusudana. In this body is there adhiyajna. Who is that? Prayanakaleja katham nyeyosi niyatatmapihi. How can a well-disciplined mind realize you at the time of death? Prayanakaleji. The time of prayana means departure. Actually, prayana means departure. Here it means final departure. Daily departures we go and return also. In this departure, there is no return at all. A final departure we call it. So we call it prayana. Technically it means death. Prayana kalecha katham nyeyosi. How can we understand you at the time of death? Niyatatmapihi. Mind has been disciplined. Still, how do we understand you and realize you at that critical moment? Please tell us all these things. In this way, Arjuna puts these two questions containing many items there. Here, Bhagavan replies, Bhagavan uvacha, Aksharam Brahma Paramam, supreme, imperishable reality, Brahman, that is Aksharam, imperishable. Brahman means that. Aksharam Brahma Paramam. Swabhavo Adhyatma Uchyate. The self in man is called Swabhava. That is our nature. Swabhava. Swabhava, your nature. Swabhavo Adhyatma Uchyate. Adhi Atma. The self that is within you. When you say I saw. Suppose it is merely seeing. It has no meaning. I saw. Then another aspect comes in. Somebody who saw. Otherwise, there is no seeing by itself. Somebody must see. An animal or a man, somebody must see. So the self that sees, self experiences. Therefore, this adhyatmam uchyate. Swabhavo adhyatmam uchyate. Bhota bhavo udbhavagaro visarga karma sapnitaha. Karma, action, is various processes of producing and changing things in this world. Bhota bhava udbhavagara. You go on. There is one creation or projection at the beginning of the cosmic evolution. Within that evolution, there are so many other activities going on of creating, shaping, this and that. That's called visarga, based on karma, activity, what you call process in modern technical language. There are processes going on, initiated by beings. That is called karma. That's called visarga, karma sapnitaha. This is the first definition. Second thing is adhibhutam ksharo bhava. What is adhibhutam? Plain nature. Ksharo bhava. Whatever is subject to change, subject to destruction, that's called adhibhutam. All bhutas, all nature around, subject to change. So kshara. Brahman is akshara. This is kshara. Adhibhutam ksharo bhava. Purushascha adhidevatam. Adhidevata is the Purusha, the self, the person. He is the adhidevata, the divine presiding over this world. Adhiyajno hamevatra. Adhiyajna presiding over all sacrifices, rituals, etc. I am myself as the divine self of all. I am that reality. Adhyajno ahamevatra dehe, within the body. Deha pratam vara, oh best among human beings, best among the embodied ones. I am the one that is called Adhyajna. Iha, in this very world, you see, this, I am the one who presides over all these things here. So, as quoting Shankara will say, Yajno vai Vishnu. Yajna means Vishnu, that divine reality. When you just see it in this particular context, we see Yajna. But probe it to find, ultimately it means that supreme divine reality. In this way, Krishna said, and then dealing with the time of death in the next verse, that is verse 5. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalebaram yaprayati cha. What has happened? Huh?
Now we have to stop.
What has happened?
Volume is coming down.
Volume. Due to air. Yeah. You shall. Are you able to hear? Well, are you able to hear? Not fully. So some kind of power going down that way. Yeah. So we shall. It's already 7 now. We shall take up next Sunday